Howdy, everybody. Welcome to the Afterparty Podcast. My name is Robert, and I'm here with Zeb.
What's going on, everybody? Facebook, internet world, whoever's tuning in. Glad to have you.
What are you drinking there?
Water, with a touch of bourbon.
I'm drinking, I'm in Tennessee, so it's in a mason jar and it's clear. So
Did that come from a radiator, or is that some good stuff?
this came from the tap.
Okay,
Plain old water.
water.
Plain old water. I'd be afraid if I had some moonshine, the cops would actually show up and arrest me. So I'm just going to stick to the water, and it's water and sweet tea mostly.
You saw what they did to Popcorn Sutton?
He's dead now, right?
Yeah, man.
They run him under they locked him up, and then did he kill himself in jail, or was he out on bond or something?
So he was locked up and got out, I believe, on bond, and he was going to come back, and he ended up killing himself because he said he was never going to go live like an animal again. Pretty kind of like a weird paradox of the state and how, they can make money off of his name and his merchandise, but he was going to go to jail for making his product, essentially.
Yeah.
Weird laws.
Now they sell the moonshine, but to me, moonshine ain't moonshine unless it's illegal. I mean, otherwise you just got, what was it? What was it? They said it was white whiskey, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. I agree, man. I agree.
I had the opportunity to sample some a long time ago, and it was good. I don't know where it came from. It came from a guy I worked with that got it from a guy we worked with that who knows where he got it, but it was all right.
Pretty good.
But I'm just going to stick to the water. We actually, we were canning last year because this is what we drink out of around here for the most part.
Yeah.
And
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
We were canning, and we had a whole bunch of mason jars on the counter. And my son came in. He's like, "Why are there so many glasses on the counter?" And I'm like, "Well, today they're actually canning jars because we're going to put tomato sauce in them." But I understood his confusion.
No, it's good, man. It's good you get the boy and the family involved in that. It was Zachariah's first year, and Amelia's this past year. Our first family garden we had, pretty, blessing. Had a great garden, and the kids actually, or especially my son, took to canning a little bit, like green beans and stuff, or picking stripping the beans, the half runners.
Yeah,
stringing them. My wife was quick to just correct me real quick. She said, stringing them. Don't sound dumb on the podcast.
Stringing them, right? I get my kids.
But he had fun, man. Liked it.
My kids are always making fun of the way I talk because I'm originally from Missouri, and I even say that weird, according to most people. But we say things. It's the way people talk there because I come from a rural area, much more rural than where I live here, and people say things like "wash," "sody," instead of iron, we say "iron." It's a pretty rural area, so I fit in pretty well here in East Tennessee, and people make fun of the way I talk, but I'm good with that.
Oh yeah, man. And I think, for our listeners and first-time viewers, for introduction of what we got going on, I think it's pretty good that you're mentioning about, moving from Missouri to Tennessee. But you see a lot of people, Missouri is a fairly liberty-loving state. I mean, you look at people like Massachusetts and the mass exodus from like California and areas like that with draconian gun laws. Tennessee is the largest growing state in the nation, according to U-Haul.
I saw that recently.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's coincidence when you see all this culture wars, and essentially, everybody watching this is our commentary on just the craziness going on and just the culture war and how it's dictated by politics and power. And, I feel like we have to be able to voice our opinions in the most peaceful and liberty loving manner possible and maintain that line, because if you see people within government or social media, titans or celebrities, the window of free speech is narrowing. It really is. And like, people can say what they want about private companies be able to fire and hire who they want, but I mean, you're literally banning almost half the country from speaking their mind. especially when it comes to beliefs or personal beliefs. And I just think that it's a worthy cause that we're doing, because it would be one thing if we were out to just be owning the libs, which, I mean, at some point I might have been like that. Sure. I've been guilty of that in the past.
I was there in the past.
Yeah. But at this point, like, I'm legitimately worried that, like, do we want to be a country anymore? You know what I mean? Like, I look at my students throughout the day and at night classes on weekends, and I'm like, what kind of America are they going to grow up into? You know what I mean? And is it going to be America? Like, do the states even want to still do this? Half the country hates the other half the other country. I truly believe the other day when we were going back and forth in the comment section with one of the kind of the left-leaning frequents that visit our site, which I appreciate his opinion.
Exactly.
But
I like that opinion.
Yeah. I don't like it, but I want to hear it. You know what I mean? I want to discuss it. But I truly think that, people on the left and people on the right, on the extremes, they would force their will upon the other half of the state through the state. They would legislate and force their laws and their type of living on the other half of the nation.
Right.
I just don't want that to be what we grow into.
No, it used to be, it seemed like the right was doing a fair amount of, like, we're going to control you. They had laws against certain type of sex. I think there was, it hadn't been that many years ago, it was illegal to have gay sex in Texas. I think it might still be illegal. It might still be on the books, and
right.
And then, there's like liquor laws they have in some places, like dry counties and stuff, where the right has been trying to enforce their brand of morals onto other people. And now the left is coming in trying to push their brand of morals. And it seems a lot more harsh to me. Maybe that's just because I came from the right. It's been a long time since I voted for George W. Bush in 2000. It was the last time I voted for a Republican for president. But maybe it's just because I come from there. But it just seems like like you said, the window that you could talk in socially that's considered acceptable anymore has gotten so small. And if you step outside of it, you get hammered by your employer, your school, your friends that happen to be of a different political persuasion than you. The internet will bring, they'll rain, hellfire down on top of you.
Right. Yeah. The internet, I mean, it's a sad thing, because the internet could be a really good thing or a really bad thing. I run a page called Beat Down Suicide, and we've done a lot of good things through them. We've hit a lull with COVID and cold weather and such, and we're going to try to get back swinging in full swing this spring with some late cleanups. Hopefully be able to partner with TVA on that. But my point is that that was started through social media, and that's a good way that social media could be used, but that's the minority. That's for every one page like that, you've got like 5 or 6 pages just dedicated on owning the conservatives or owning the libs. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's I don't know. It just seems like a toxic, like, go around the whole time, and there's not a lot of real discussion going on, and a lot of times when that real discussion goes on and you get real reactions, even though they might not be vulgar reactions, you get canceled out anyways. Like, I think this last little series with Gina, I don't know what's her last name,
Carano or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good example. She said nothing really offensive. I don't think so.
I've heard it's racist, but I've read it a few times, and I'm like, I don't see anything right. I mean, it used the Jewish people in Germany, prior to and during World War II as an example of, how they were ostracized, and then they were hated, and then they went from there to mass murdering them. And she was saying that, this is what happened, and this is kind of like hating people, hating people for their religion. It's kind of like hating people for their politics. And do we really want to head down that path in this country? Because if we do, it's a dark, dark path at the end of it.
Yeah. And that's, that's kind of my point with her, is that she should be allowed to say that. Like, she didn't come out and say, like, Jews should have been killed. Like, she didn't say anything offensive or anything like that. And there's a lot of misinformation out there too, and then people, people on the right and the left deliberately do that. They twist things and try to demonize somebody in different types of context, in a way that vilifies them,
Right.
and the left and the right have done that. And it's aggravating because you don't ever get true discussion out of that. You just get the same echo chamber reactions or retortions on the comment threads. Like, I enjoy the comment thread debates and all that, but I do think there's something to be said for like face-to-face interaction and debate.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's a whole lot easier to be snotty, snarky, hateful when you're typing out a message on Facebook.
Sure.
Compared to when you're in person. When you're in person, you kind of want to have a little kindness, most people, there are people out there just want to be hateful all the time. But generally, when you're talking to somebody in person, you're kinder, you choose your words more carefully, and you have a better conversation instead of a tit for tat back and forth.
Sure.
Snotty comment, back at snotty comment. And I think you actually get more conversation done that way.
Yeah. And that's what needs to happen. And, it's funny you mentioned earlier about both sides doing it, like the right and the left both wanting to impose their will on the other half of the nation or other half of the community. If we want to look at it at a micro level, you know what I mean, as far as like liquor laws or Sunday laws. I do worry about, for example, with cannabis legalization, I do worry that states are trying to, like, conservative states are trying to set up to block that. Because I think that my issue, and like, I personally don't partake or anything like that, and I don't have any stake in that. But I think that when we're focusing on something like cannabis on a federal or state or communal level, that's resources that can be focused on child trafficking. You know what I mean? That's resources like real crimes.
You can maybe solve some burglaries.
Yeah, I'm not worried about Johnny down the road with whatever amount of pot he has. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care about that. Let's worry about, the child traffickers. Let's worry about, a lot of different things that goes on, actually violent crimes. Yeah.
South Dakota, I believe they passed there was like a citizens initiative to legalize marijuana at some level at the back in November. Right. And their governor, conservative, I believe she has gotten it blocked by a court. And I just saw the headline. I didn't read the article, but I'm like, well, that's what the people want. Let the people have it. And maybe, I think she's a lot less strict. I mean, they didn't do any lockdowns or anything, and they've done reasonably well with their numbers for COVID. Sure. And but if you trust the people to, handle COVID appropriately, trust them to handle pot appropriately. I have never smoked pot in my life. I have zero desire to.
Sure.
But I think that the money we spend enforcing the pot laws and drug laws in general could be better spent on education, addiction treatment, and helping people if we're going to spend them. I mean, I'm an anarcho-capitalist. I would prefer that there never be a government, but we have it. So if we're going to if the government's spending those dollars, let's not spend it putting people in prison and enforcing the law. Let's spend it on some education and helping people so that they're no longer addicted, so that we can free up all those resources and do something, maybe reduce the tax bill.
Sure. And, I think, I'm definitely not an anarchist of any sorts, because I don't think that could work. I don't think that feasibly work. That's not me being critical of you. That's just
no. That's a lot of people don't.
But one thing that I find interesting about reasonable people within the Libertarian Party, and what drew me to the Libertarian Party, like hearing people like Cornette speak and hearing guys like Tom Campbell speak of the Libertarian Party Campbell County affiliate, listen to those guys speak about how logical and like the true sense of conservative government is small government.
Very small.
And that's kind of where I remember that when I made the decision that I was going to join the Libertarian Party, and like I sent in, made my donation and all that. I still never got my card from them. I I want to talk to the LP chairman face to face on that, not the Tennessee one. I want to talk to the national one. Even Eckel thinks not. I think Eckel's great dude. I think he's a good dude. I really do. Even though we've had disagreements on like Kyle Rittenhouse and stuff like that, his work with For All Tennessee is awesome. Like him,
that it is.
Cornette. I mean, I can't. We'll have episodes on that, man. Those guys are killing it with it. But with that being said, we can have disagreements, but listen to those guys speak on different things. It comes back to conservatism, and the Republican Party is no longer conservative.
It's not.
I mean, you can't sit there and boast this ridiculous spending bill and say you're conservative. I mean, it's not feasible.
They blew up the budget under Trump. They had the House, the Senate, and the presidency under Trump for the first 2 years of his presidency. And he signed every bill they sent him with the budget. They never reduced it. They just kept spending more. And then we had COVID, and then the Democrats took over the House, and they just got bigger. And our inflation, so they said, I just saw a thing today, said it's the highest rate in 8 years. And it's only going to go higher because I think 40% of the U.S. money ever created was created last year. I think it was 40%, a whole lot of money. So we're going to have a whole lot of inflation coming.
Oh yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be in the least surprised that somewhere within the next 4 years, due to inflation or hyperinflation at this point, and I don't want to say a collapse in market, because what truly, like, gold doesn't back the dollar. The United States military might backs the dollar. That's right. The backing of the dollar.
It ain't gold anymore.
It's not going to go. I don't think the dollar is going to go anywhere, but I do think we're going to see some hyperinflation. And I think it's going to hit the job market as well within the next, I'm going to say 3 years. But I think what we will see within the next 4 years is some type of UBI or proposed UBI, universal base income. And that's going to be a true segue into a more centralized and, like, truly in the sense of a socialist, more dominant socialist government versus a free market government or capitalist government, whatever you want to call it. I prefer the term free market.
Free market. Love it. Was Andrew Yang pushing $1,000 a month for every adult?
I don't know which one it was. There's been a couple of them speak about it. They're pushing, like, HR 127's coming through. They're pushing everything to see what they can push as far and what gets pushed back. I kind of feel like that's what they're doing right now. And they're also doing it, keep them busy with the impeachment process. I feel like I'm seeing news on the impeachment process, but there's a lot of other stuff going on. I mean, they're just throwing.
Are they doing that just so Trump can't run next time? That's the only thing I can think of.
Scared to death of Trump. They are terrified of Trump.
Yeah, they are. And I didn't vote for Trump. I never cared for him. But they don't like Trump. They say they're terrified of him and they're going after him. And I assume that it's probably, under their, if you could look into their heart of hearts, it is to keep him from running next time. I appreciated what the mockery he made of the media and the Democrats and the liberal agenda. I did appreciate that.
Yeah. My biggest, it was really difficult. Like, I got a really, like, hyper conservative family, for the most part. I do have that one liberal uncle, and he's cool. Like, and we talk, and me and him disagree sometimes too, but I'm the libertarian in the middle. And trying to explain to those guys, like, I don't have a problem with Trump per se. I didn't really necessarily like the way the dude talked. I don't think he was a very effective leader in the sense of uniting a country. He was an effective leader in galvanizing a large portion of the nation, though.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the fear of it. My biggest beef with Trump, though, was that he didn't know enough to the effect that he just got used by the swamp. Like, he was like, I'm draining the swamp. And, like, Mitch McConnell was, like, in his ear, like, whispering, like, slithering messages to him, like, whatever, telling him what to do. Like, he didn't realize, like, the swamp was really kind of playing him. And that was my beef with Trump, is that, and I think he just wanted to be in the spotlight. to be
He seemed,
honest with you.
he seemed like he
And
loved the attention.
he loved the attention, but I mean, there is something to be said about how he was able to galvanize so much support. And I mean, and the answer isn't, I hate this liberal answer of, well, they just weren't smart. They were dumb people and they were easy prey. We're effectively calling half the nation dumb. And that's not true when we're a rich nation in trades and human resources and human services. Like, so you have all these people that bring a lot to the table in purchasing power and like voting and property, like everything bought into the American system. And you're just going to write everybody off as dumb because they voted for Trump. Like, there's something more to it, to why he was able to break so many people off from the GOP.
Right. There needs to be they need to stop and say, why did they vote for Trump? We have all these good ideas. Why in the world would they vote for a ridiculous person like him? And then the Republicans need to be like, Biden's terrible. Why would they vote for Biden? They dislike Trump this much. Well, maybe what's going on? Why do they, there should be some reckoning with how they perceive the other side and how the other side perceives them. So maybe they could come to a point of understanding that half the country doesn't see the world the way I do.
Yeah, and I think that compromises really honestly the Libertarian Party, and I say that half-heartedly, and the reason why I say that is because not that I don't like the idea of the Libertarian Party, but I'm almost to the point where I don't even believe in a party anymore. Like, I'm so close to that. Like, I'm like teetering on the edge. Like, I'm trying to stay in there and stay motivated about it. But like, you have so much ridiculousness coming out of the LP itself on cannibalizing itself over ridiculous stuff. And then like, also, even though we're the smallest party and, we're obviously battling heavyweights and trying to stay in the fight, we would rather cannibalize and kick ourselves out and make a mockery of ourselves rather than say we have to get together and limit government, whether you're ANCAT, whether you're states' rights, whether you're whatever, progressive left, libertarian, conservative libertarian. We all agree that the federal government has too much power. So why are we arguing about a cartoon? Why are we, why are we drawing battle lines about Morgan Wallen? It's just like, so I'm trying to stay positive about that, but I think we got to push these conversations. I think it's got to be grassroots. I think that we got to try to network and promote liberty-minded individuals in office, and also volunteer work. You know what I mean? Brandon Hughes, I'll shout out to that guy out of the East Tennessee Libertarian Party organization. I'm not sure what their official name is, but anytime I called and needed like signs or pins or whatever to pass out, or the brochures for Libertarian Party out to in my areas, he was right on there, getting him out there. So, I mean, we need 10 more Brandons, you know what I mean? For different, whatever, city council or maybe mayor or what, anything across the board. Imagine if we got a libertarian sheriff. I mean, that would be awesome.
That would be nice. Yeah.
Imagine that.
I think if we did a lot more locally, that people might see that we wouldn't need so much at the state and federal level, and then we could bring some of that power back down to the bring it from the federal down to the state, and from the state down to the local, where people can actually put into place the things that they want done locally and not rely on people in the state of Washington or California or Texas to bring the hammer down from the federal government to get things done for them. Do it locally, and that way every individual state could do their own thing instead of. I'm tired of California trying to push their agenda and their morals and their and their ideas on Tennessee, and they're probably tired of the state of Tennessee holding them back. So
sure,
how about you guys do your thing and we'll do our thing here.
Yeah, and I think the scary part of that is people don't know what that looks like. You know what I mean? And I think it has to, on a federal level, I think that the culture war has been really effective
It
in
has.
getting to get attention away from major problems that we have to figure out as a country. Like, for example, foreign wars. Like, we don't talk about foreign wars anymore because we have identity politics. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
never mind the oppressed in other countries that are war torn because of bad policies perpetuated by us. Sorry about that. You know, I'm a
And
welding instructor. I'm not an English instructor.
yeah, and we're killing, tens or hundreds of thousands of people overseas, not even thinking about it while we argue over things that don't really, I mean, we shouldn't be hateful, but I think killing people is a lot more important than, I think the fact that we're killing people overseas, not that we should be doing it, I think that's a more pressing issue than if somebody was offended by something.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you look at the whole dichotomy of it as well, that we're also sending Americans to die on a false pretense on many levels, and that was really a very hard thing that I had to come to terms with. It took some hard conversations with
Me too.
a good friend of mine that is also a Marine, with the Callahan clan, and those guys, shout out to those guys, love those guys. And, I served with his brother, and, when I came back, me and his, Daniel had a lot of conversations about Sean and, my anger. And like, for example, that was roughly not too, Colin Kaepernick happened about 4 years after that. And I was still at an angry point of that. And I took a lot of offense to Colin Kaepernick and had a problem with him and that form of protest. And it essentially took Dan to explain to me that everything that like Marines go through or service members go through should be the embodiment of his freedom to express himself like that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that was kind of like a slow process in understanding that. And then once I listened to speakers like Tom Campbell and Justin Cornett, and them kind of explain their point of view on it too, it kind of broke the fog. And okay, I'm a libertarian. You know what I mean?
Right.
What does that mean? And where do we go with it there? I think we have to keep pushing those discussions. And I think it also comes with it's a double-edged sword though, because at the same time, I understand their grievances, but I also pity Black Lives Matter because they got used by the Democrat
Yes,
Party.
that they did.
The same way that Blue Lives Matter got used by the Republican Party. Both of those BLM groups were used by the parties, and nobody even got representation. I mean, from what I understand, Biden's not met with Black Lives Matter yet in office or held any significant meetings or press conferences with them. I mean, what have they gained out of supporting somebody that passed the 94 crime bill and also supported draconian drug laws during the Reagan years and also supported busing with Dixiecrats? You know what I mean?
And there was something, I can't remember what senator just made a statement about how they had to not defund, they had to defend the police, not defund the police. It was a Democrat. And, he's basically just going opposite of what they were saying, supporting the Black Lives Matter. And I wish I could remember who it was and what he said, but basically just saying, well, we're not going to bother with Black Lives Matter right now. I mean, they got the vote. Why bother?
Yeah. And that's a hard thing too. Like Blue Lives Matter has been used in the same fashion. Like I on the way home from work tonight, had a conversation with a good friend of mine up in Michigan. And I was kind of talking to him about the post I made in the Mises caucus earlier about the dude from Michigan that was making all the craziest accusations against Spike Cohen of being white supremacist and this and that, which is
that's funny totally right insane.
There. I know, right? Like you can't make this stuff up. The guy must be somewhat mentally ill. But I was talking about my frustrations about like this is one reason why I don't know if I believe in a party or not, because there's no true consensus and we're cannibalizing our own. But I was also halfway trying to convince him that maybe he needs to get involved with libertarian politics in Michigan. You know what I mean? And one of his issues, he's a conservative, but he's a conservative in the sense of small government. And one of the issues he said was like, well, libertarians hate police, or the defund the police, all that. Like, I was raised by a cop, and what I had to tell him, and what I've had to tell a lot of people, is that my stance is not anti-police.
No.
A lot of Leo, and I have many good Leo friends that I have a lot of good conversations with. A lot of those guys don't want to go no-knock raid Johnny's house for X amount of weed that he has. You know what I mean?
Right.
They don't want to do that. They know that's pointless. They want to focus on trafficking crimes, violent crimes. They want to focus on that. They want to prevent people from becoming victims, So what I hear from them a lot is that they don't want to be put in that situation. And that's kind of the point I feel like the Libertarian Party should be, is that let's roll back as many laws as we can that aren't necessary. So we're not overusing our law enforcement, and let them focus on more things they need to, like child pornography or whatever lewd and heinous crimes that you want to call out there. That's one reason why I don't really believe in anarchy, is because if you have complete anarchy, how do you combat? How do you in an organized fashion combat child trafficking or human trafficking? You know what I mean?
I don't have the answer to all that. I just came to the realization that I'm an anarchist because, and that doesn't mean anarchist as in, I got the little A symbol with the circle around it and I go around and burn everything. I always try to, when people ask me where I am politically, I say I'm a voluntarist. I think all of our interactions should be voluntary. And when I got there because I got to thinking, well, it's wrong to force me to pay for wars that I disagree with overseas. It's wrong for me to pay for people to force me to pay for welfare. Well, I like national parks, but it's wrong for me to force you to pay for a national park if you don't want to spend your money on it. And when you come down to, because when that's what taxation is, it's force. I mean, if you don't pay your taxes, they're going to bring a hammer and they're going to beat you about the head with it and lock you in a cage. And if you resist, they're going to kill you. So all that comes down to forcing other people to do what you want. And I said, I can't do that. I can't force other people to do what I want. And the only way to do that is a truly, fully voluntary society. Will we ever get there in my lifetime? Maybe. Okay, probably not. But I would like to get it so that it's as small as the government is as small as possible and does as little as possible. So that's where I am with that. But when it comes to the police, let's get rid of marijuana laws. Let's get rid of all the drug laws. Let's get rid of mask mandates. If a store wants me to wear a mask, they put a sign up that says you got to wear a mask to come in. Fine, I'll wear a mask to go in there. It's their store, their rules. I'll follow them. We need to get rid of all the petty mandates that cops have to enforce. And if you got rid of those, then cops would be interacting with your regular, average, normal person much less than they do now. They wouldn't be hassling you because the glass is broke, the lens is broken on your taillight or something like that. It doesn't matter. As long as they could see you, they don't care. And then they could focus, like you were talking about, on true crimes. Let's focus on, trafficking and things like that. I think this will offend some people in the Libertarian Party. I think prostitution's immoral. I don't think you should do it. But I also don't think that we should be arresting the people participating in it, because it's a voluntary choice that they're making. And if we get the cops out of doing that, then we can get them to work on the trafficking issues and not worry about this lady and this guy, him giving her $50 for whatever. Worry about the 12-year-old girl that's being forced into it. Spend your effort on that kind of stuff. So we need to get there. And I don't see that the Libertarian Party is anti-police. I see that they're anti-overactive police. They're anti-police abuse. And I my family is very conservative, and they struggle with that one too, because back the blue, support the cops, support the troops, support the U.S., stand for the flag, the whole 9 yards. But let's just get the police to do a whole lot less. And then you won't have the big complaints from the BLM, because they won't be harassing people for things that they shouldn't be harassed for. And if you have fewer interactions, you're going to have fewer chances of somebody getting killed by an overzealous cop.
Well, You nailed it completely on your your spill about police and over legislation and too many laws on the books. Like, I'm going to say ditto on that because I completely agree. With that said, though, I mean, I feel like the best way into it is just a grassroots, and we've got to get out there. I mean, I feel like in a time during lockdowns, I think like gatherings and rallies are important. Well, even if it's just even if you're just rallying for a city council person that is getting voted into your city, whatever that rally looks like, going to Charlie's Pizza for Wednesday and having people there and having speakers, whatever it is, get people out and interact on a local level. And, it's also important. I want to mention them one more time because we're getting pretty close to wrapping up our intro video on this. But I want to again hit on For All Tennessee. Like, those guys are providing, it's unique that they're giving voters and citizens of Tennessee an opportunity, a glimpse to see what their government's really doing. Like, to have lifetime feed. Like, I get updates on my phone for football sometimes, in football games. It's kind of the same thing, but you're getting lifetime updates on politics, of state politics, right, and governors, what they're doing. And the last Zoom meeting I had, well, it wasn't Zoom. I can't remember what they used. I think it was Google Call is what they used. And I said on that, you might have been on that meeting. I don't know.
I wasn't on that one.
But I asked a question about whether or not they would have an app that would, by a senator's name or legislator's name or whoever, lawmaker's name, and see where they stand on certain bills and how they voted. And Cornette, I think he made sure to say that it's not a scorecard, it's a report card, because we're not scoring you and telling you what to think about it. We're telling you what they're doing.
That's what we.
I thought that's a great distinction right there. And that's one thing I'm excited for the Afterparty Podcast, Afterparty site to support and push is just voter education. We
need that.
At least know the issues, right?
Yep. Know the issues and know what your local guy's doing. I mean, everybody knows what Nancy Pelosi's doing, but what is my representative doing? What is my senator doing? Because they're one that I might actually have an effect, and preferably let's get that to where it's my local state congressman, to the state legislature, not the state congressman, but the state legislator, because I might run into him at the grocery store.
No, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. I mean, I might just even give him a call and tell him that the police shouldn't be able to surveil my house without a warrant as well.
Exactly.
I mean, I'll just
maybe on our next episode here, we need to bring up a couple of the things that the For All Tennessee group's working on, and highlight a couple of things. I know they've sent some information out. They're working on some ballot access. They're working to get that surveillance, that they don't need a warrant to do the aerial surveillance. It'd be nice to bring up some of that stuff they're hitting and see where we're at with them.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Like, maybe do a For All report card on each episode for like a small 10-minute segment, kind of discuss what they're pushing and what they're talking about.
There we go.
It's a good idea.
Yep. Well, man, it's getting almost my bedtime.
Yeah, dude, I'm past my bedtime, man. It's past
All
my
right.
bedtime.
Well, this has been the Afterparty Podcast. See us next time, and catch us on our Facebook page, and we'll get the website up there eventually.
Absolutely. Stay safe out there, guys.